And one group can go over here by this table or back there, wherever you'd like to go, and have a discussion. Bring your little charts with you, and have a discussion about common thoughts, and chart those down. We'll give you a couple of markers, and chart down those commonalities that you have. I'm going to collect the stickies afterward. I'd like you, when you're finished, to attach the stickies to the top of your chart, okay? So one group take this and go off by the green platform. One group take this and go to another section. Jackie has some markers. Join either group you would like. We ask that there be no more than 5. Let's look at the commonalities between the two and see what your thoughts are about the commonalities.
Can you read it?
Yeah, sure.
Read it to us. I don't want to take that.
One comment at a time. Respect, good listening skills, shared responsibility, clear and to the point discussions, short as possible, compromise and open-mindedness, engagement, listening, clarifying, respectful, smile, tolerance, efficiency, willingness to compromise, transparency, preparation for a meeting, respect for people and ideas. So can we, get a marker, determine which of those are common amongst? And you're welcome to come up and look if you're.
The respect was give up everywhere. Listening.
Compromise.
Everywhere.
Perspective on ideas, open-mindedness.
Yeah, right. It's one person, and,
Yeah, I think respect for people and ideas is similar to openness.
So, as much as it's challenging, and we have our own communities, and we have our own schools, and parents have perspectives, board members have perspectives, people have different perspectives, the law requires us to work together and to begin to try to see what commonalities that we may have amongst us. So our next question, and we're going to repeat the same process 2 more times, is again, we'll ask you to divide up into your groups. What do you think? With respect to what makes you feel good and sense success in working in a group who may have a different perspective about the topic. So what makes you feel good when you work in a group, and what gives you success when you work in a group? So if you go, first of all, if you spend a few minutes writing down your thoughts about that, then we'll have you go off in your groups again and work on these 2 questions. What makes you feel good and what makes you successful when working in a group? So let's see if we can find out. Friendly, cooperative attitudes. People in groups can put themselves in each other's shoes, acknowledge each other's ideas, working to find a way, and friendly acceptance of group decisions. Exchange of everyone's ideas. Compromise, again, I think that was on the last list. Listening and respect, clarification of ideas, development of new ideas, fair playing field, no preconceived agendas. So we've got everyone's ideas or each other's ideas.
respect, clarification of ideas is similar to the second, the people in the group can put themselves in each other's shoes.
Yep, that would be.
How were the, can you say that again? I was just trying to capture, what were the two together?
Right, it's like, yeah, the second one down and the top one.
Yeah.
People in a group can put themselves in each other's shoes with listening and respect and clarification of ideas
Okay.
are similar.
Yeah, so about perspective, okay.
Okay, so while we capture these ideas, here's your last task. On your little stickies, what do you think are the norms? So the norms are 5 to 8 rules that we're going to operate every meeting. We're going to have them on our agenda. We'll have them posted. 5 to 8 norms that this group should employ to ensure the most productive work sessions. So if you write some ideas down and then go back to your group.
New ideas, acceptance of group decisions, and consider other perspectives. So those were some of the common things, you know, that went across all.
So these are the norms and the tasks that we want to work with. We need to merge these into 5 to 8 rules. So there are 8 here. Let's do these 8 and see if these align with these. Stay focused on the agenda. Stay on task. So it's pretty much the same. So I'm just going to check them if they work. Follow time limits, and this one also has time limits. Speaks when recognized, no interrupting or side conversations. Listening, I guess we could say listening. Respect everyone's input. Respect and accept all opinions. Be prepared. I think I saw it. Be prepared and on time. Can I add on time on this one? Not can. May I add on time? Be open-minded. Would that be similar to hear all opinions? Ask for clarification if needed. And cite evidence, not just opinions. How's everybody feel about this list? It includes everything on this list. Is there anything on this list someone's not comfortable with? I think we can live with these rules for our next set of meetings. All right, then we have our norms for our group to work with, and we'll, Celeste will have these prepared for us and on our agendas. So thank you so much for your participation and help. We'll also have the reason we keep these little stickies is sometimes people don't give us their comments. They'll write it down, but they either won't tell us what they're saying, or they're uncomfortable, or they feel the rest of the group doesn't align. So we're just going to make a list of all those under these questions, so anybody who wants to read them can. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
You're welcome.
Next item on our agenda is charge of the merger committee. This will probably be a relatively short discussion, but we thought it would be helpful to go over roles and responsibilities of the committee, and also of the people that are working with the committee. The charge of the committee is to decide whether merger is advisable, and if yes, we'll be preparing a report, and if we answer no, then that's the end of our committee. The two superintendents
Can I
that
ask
are...
a question?
Yeah.
Even if we determine that it is no, is there still something that is presented to the voters? Or no, like it doesn't even, if we say no, then the voters don't even get it said?
I believe if we say no, there's not something submitted to the voters. Is that your understanding
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the voters could, a certain percentage could petition for, you know, that merger to, you know, or for a new merger committee to form, but, yeah.
So the only way this committee could end is if we say no, or we put it to the voters, and then, okay,
Yes.
okay,
And then the voters will say yeah, and then,
right.
yeah.
John?
I'm under the opinion, though, that we can present something out of the ordinary to the State Board of Education.
What do you mean out of the ordinary?
Well, not by the exact rules of Act 46.
I mean, you've got,
I mean, we can petition the Board of Education to accept a merger plan.
under
You mean
other,
it's different, that's different than a red or the exact, the preferred or the alternative plan? Yes, you can present,
I mean, it's
It's up
risky,
to them.
obviously, but,
right.
yeah.
Because anything we put to the voters has to be approved by the State Board of Ed.
It has to be approved before it goes to the vote. So the Secretary of Education and the Agency of Education must approve your plan. So, for example, we need to really complete our work by November, go to the State Board and the Secretary of Education by December if we want to go to vote in March, because then you have to have during January, February, all your community outreach meetings.
Yes.
If I'm correct, if the committee goes forward, we get a grant of 20,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
you already have.
We already have
You
that.
have that.
So this is going to be
Access.
spent, and this is taxpayers' money, so it's already being spent on a committee that's not really been held well, I guess. All right, so if we put it to the voters and they still say no, that's money spent, it's not going to work. All right, I didn't think that we already had it. I thought we were applying for it, but we didn't already have it.
You get it as soon as you became a formal study committee. That's like step number 2, and you apply, because that's when you let the secretary know we are formal, and then you apply for the grant. And the grant is used, doesn't mean you have to use all of the grant. I mean, but you have up to 20,000 if you had to access that. And the grant is for things. It is primarily for consulting fees, because Joan and I, we don't have a role, we're here to support you, but it would be inappropriate for us to run the committees.
And
So
it's
you
part of
really-
our regular job, it's
Yeah.
additional work, but it's part of our job. So the monies, the grant goes for consulting fees, it goes for legal fees, if we
Yeah.
need to have legal fees. I would think it would pay for voting if we had to pay for extra voting. I don't know about that piece. But if we don't spend it, we don't spend it. But like the minute taker, that money would come out of the grant. And that's money, grant money that the legislature has provided for Act 46. So it's not coming from the 3 budgets, any of the 3 budgets.
Right. Thank you.
Jackie and Joan, I wondered if you would just clarify from your point of view what the superintendent's role, you sort of just did, but what the superintendent's role is in the process.
Kind of is. I mean, yeah, we take direction from you. We serve as resources. There will be, as we get more into answering those questions, you're going to have things you want from us.
Finance, you asked for enrollment reports, so you have enrollment reports tonight. You have a little tiny bit of finance, but really there's a huge amount of finance. In my other Act 46 active committee, they have curriculum presentations, special ed presentations. We need to facilitate all of those things and make sure we bring you what you need to have.
Do any of the committee members have questions about the superintendent's role? I think we can move on to proposed workflow. We have talked a couple of times about a timeline. I know Dan French has given us a little bit of information of what we would need to do in order to form a red in a timely manner to get the tax incentives. And sort of working back from that, we think we would need to, if we decide that merger is advisable, that we would need to have a proposal to the State Board of Education by November, which would mean that we have a lot of work to do this summer. And one of the big issues that we really haven't gotten into discussing yet, but we will, is the designation question. And I think that we're going to need to have public input so that we can make decisions. One idea that we had was possibly doing 2 drafts of a report, one with designation and one without designation, and then getting public input toward the end of the summer, middle to the end of the summer, and then coming back hopefully with a direction that we could refine our report, and when we have what we feel is our final report, getting more public input, and then sending it to the State Board of Education. But I'd like to have committee members' input on how they feel about that timeline and about how we go about our work.
Definitely for a busy summer.
Yeah, one thing that we thought about was, we do have there was a meeting wizard question sent out about our next meeting, and our next meeting is going to be July 13th in Wells at 7 o'clock. But one question that I had was whether board members might be willing to actually have another meeting in July, in addition to that one, where we meet possibly on a Saturday and spend a good amount of time, you know, almost a whole chunk during the day, so that we have more time to really get the work done. Are people open to that?
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm seeing a lot of nods, but Sue, no?
There's no way I can do days, not doing, I mean, I can do afternoons, probably it's about 3:30, but after all that time before, it's not possible.
The childcare reasons.
On a weekend?
Right, my husband works 7 days a week this time of year, so.
Okay. Well, what we may do is try to send out a couple of different ideas. I mean, would either of you be able to do something that was late afternoon that went, you know, into the evening? Like 4
I
o'clock?
have, my kids are grown up, I'm pretty much free.
Okay. So you said after 3:30 you'd be
After
available?
3:30.
Okay. What about you? Courtney?
I honestly probably wouldn't be available until after 6.
Okay. Would you feel okay about us starting and you joining in, or would
I would be
you?
fine if that was okay with everything else.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll try to come up with a couple of proposed dates. And Jackie and Joan, do you think that you would be able to make those type of meetings?
We were breaking the rules, we were having a side conversation.
Okay.
And so, as we were listening to some of this, so you said a 3:30, one option is like an afternoon through late
Yes.
evening?
Yeah.
Okay. And where did this Saturday thing go?
Everybody seemed okay with Saturdays, except for the time constraints of it needs to be later in the day.
Okay, all right, so what's later in the day?
Well, Sue is available at 3:30 and after, and Courtney would be available at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So my preference would not be a Saturday because I work very long hours during the week. But but I could give up a Saturday if it didn't conflict with something else. I could do that, and would be willing to do that. Certainly, if I don't have another board meeting from 3 or 3:30 or 2 o'clock until the evening, it doesn't matter because I just usually stay through work for board meetings. So, you know, having a long meeting doesn't matter, and we could even use the grant to bring pizza in for a dinner meeting or something like that.
Does it
So-
have to be a Saturday? Or we do it during the week?
Oh, it could be during the week also, if
we're
it's gonna be
do
that
3:30,
late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. So maybe we do some we do it 3:30 to 8 o'clock or something. and
Right.
That'll give you a good chunk of work, if we
Yeah.
can get a few of those in. Okay, great.
Any input from committee members about the timeline and getting public input?
The community forums, then we would expect them to take place in the fall, like September, October? Or
I
do
think we were
want-
hoping to have something mid to late August
Oh.
for the first one.
For the first one, okay.
Joe?
Could I just add, you might consider doing the beginning of September. August has a lot of parents away on, or a lot of people away on vacations, and we've found that summer meetings often don't bring in enough people, where if you do September and allow for soccer to be finished with, so you do a 7 o'clock meeting, you're much more likely to have more participation than you are in the summer when everybody's away on vacation or doesn't get notices or other things. So I would think you would need the September to gather input, and then the ones in January, February, once the report's done, before you go to vote.
We would need to get, I think, the second input before that, because we'd want it before it went to the state board.
Okay.
So, I think September would be, early September would be the latest that we would want to get the first set of input. Does anyone know when school starts?
Yeah, August 29th for the teachers and August 31st for the students.
Okay.
So, yes, and so the late August or early September, that's the public hearing stuff, just on the designation choice question.
Yes.
Right, okay. Yep.
Anything else anyone wants to add on the timeline or how we get public input? Questions?
Yeah.
Can I excuse you just a second? By law, the exit lights have to be on. I just turn them on for you. When whoever leaves here, is the first switch on the left side of this box, the top one. Just turn it off, I would appreciate it.
We will. Thank you. Okay, I think if there aren't any other questions,
Are we allowed to make comments?
our public comment time is over. If there's something quick that you would
I
like
have
to
a
add.
question, it's actually not a public comment, but on these extra meetings, how does the word get out to the public? That if you add on a meeting in July, is there a notice list that we can get on of any kind, or is it just seeing them posted at the post office or wherever?
I believe it's on the website
It's on the website.
of the BRSU.
BRSU,
Yes,
okay.
all of our meetings are on there.
Right,
Yep.
okay, but we can't subscribe to anything, we would just have to find it, is that right?
Yeah, you'll just want to check, I mean, they'll post it, and we really increased the postings this time too.
Okay.
They went a lot of places, so, and it will be on our website. We're going to keep a current, like, even the activity you did today, that happened today, we'll take all of this information that will be there under this merger group, so that everybody sees everything that's going on. Okay?
Other questions?
I have a comment, so I guess I can't.
Go ahead.
I really think community involvement needs to be a lot earlier. I don't know.
Did you say?
I think community involvement or outreach or a forum needs to be earlier. I know it's summer and it's going to be hit or miss, but I feel like it needs to be earlier. Even just an informative, like not necessarily a debate on designation, I mean, it'll turn into that, but like just some kind of more informative.
Did Paula or Rupert ever have any kind of community outreach, just Will's kind of did an informal vote to see where they stood as far as choice versus designation. Did Paul or Elizabeth?
They did one.
Yeah, oh, well, there were 2 meetings, there was one at the school and one here, I believe.
Yes.
Yep, so there were, those were in November, October and November, I think, of last year. It was pretty well attended, I would say, at least the one at the school was. I'm not sure about the one here because I was away and I couldn't come to the one that was here.
Was there any kind of informal vote?
There was an informal vote done only at one of those. It was at the one at the school. Yeah. And that was among the people that were at the meeting.
people that were there, wasn't
Yes.
the town.
The consensus here at the meeting was a pretty strong consensus, but that's all it was. We didn't count or take a vote or anything else. It was a pretty strong consensus at that time. Whether it has changed or not, we don't know.
What do committee members feel about when we should have a meeting that solicits community input? One thing I should just say before I ask that question, I think, is that there are 13 questions we have to answer when we do our report, and some of them are pretty easy and non-controversial, I think, and pretty simple for us to get through. But of course, the question about designation is not, and so I think it's important that we get community input, and the timing of that, I guess I'd like to get your input as committee members, what you think, when you think we should do
Maybe
that.
as soon as we get the reports at least ready to present, we could at least make them publicly available so people can see them. And then maybe with the issue with the summertime, I know everybody's all over the place in the summer, then right as the first week of September, maybe have that first forum, and at least that'll give people time to digest the reports.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So if we put them out a couple weeks ahead of time?
Or even like if we're going to be working on them in July, hopefully they'll be finished by, I don't know, first half of August, hopefully early August.
Right.
You know, and just make them available at either the town halls or firehouses or wherever, you know, or through email, you
Yeah.
know. So, at that time.
Susan?
I have a suggestion that we, maybe our next meeting as we get organized, get through our simple things, get that off the table. And then as we get to a section that is probably going to elicit more interest from the public, that we make sure as we put it on the website that the topic of that night is there. And then people can come to this meeting, it is an open public meeting. And then move into the stage that Rita was just talking about. But that way people, because I think what I was hearing is that they want to be around and listening as these decisions are being talked about by this committee, is what I got the sense. Would that be
Right, before
accurate?
the reports are written, in my opinion.
So if we did that, you know, you get the pieces that, you know, the names of the towns and all those questions that are straightforward,
Right.
no decision-making really happens with them. Get that done, and then get into our meeting a piece at a time, and if we post that along with the meeting, then yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, meanwhile, while we're doing that, I do understand that we're supposed to be getting, you know, a number of pieces of information that are important for us to know. And there is sometimes no sense arguing or discussing or whatever a specific topic until you have the actual information in front of you. I hate to talk about some much thing might be, or what if, or blah, blah, blah. I want facts and figures, data in front of me. And I would think that most of the people in my town would want to have the actual data, because how else are they going to make a responsible decision if they don't have the data in front of them? And part of that, I thought, was our collecting this data for their use. And I think that that would be very helpful.
So we saw some hypothetical tax scenarios from Middletown Springs, where they put it together with the neighboring towns. I mean, could we have Lewis and whoever the BRSU business manager is, I guess, put together something similar? I mean, that's what you're talking about, right, Darlene?
Some of those things, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like the actual numbers.
It would be maintenance of a building, it would be debt that
Right.
you might have. It would be how your own taxes reflect in your savings and the outgo of your money over the period of the year. So we're talking about a lot of different kinds of information. You'd want to have student population, projected student population, actual student population from, I don't know how far back, but you would want to have some of that kind of information. So you saw an actual pattern of where these districts have gone. That isn't to say that they weren't doing a really wonderful job. It's just that if we're going to tell the people we think we should merge or we think we shouldn't merge, we need to say this is the reason why in black and white. You know, it shouldn't be one of these, you know, stomach emotion kind of thing. It should be something that is based directly on factual information.
So I think what I'm hearing is that that we make sure that our agenda reflects difficult topics that we would be discussing ahead of time so that there is, people know when those meetings are, but that we would be looking for the public input session to happen late August, early September. Is that right? Yeah, we do have a lot of work to do. Yeah, definitely.
Right, so we got the, like you were just saying, we have the enrollment numbers, or actually they're in the back of the agenda, right? You have some of the enrollment numbers going back 2007 and some of the tuition stuff. And I guess that's already on the agenda, but I guess can we then request the business managers to then give us the tax information to go along with this?
Oh, designation versus choice?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so that would be the next piece.
What would you be looking for in particular? Because I think we'll need to let the superintendents know that. Or Jackie and Joan, do you feel that's something that we need to wait for our consultant to delve into?
I think we should wait for our consultant, that's my opinion.
Okay.
But I think the idea, and I think Susan mentioned this, was like, next step, like what are the easy things, what are the hard things?
Yeah.
And I just want to, when we go for that financial piece, I just want to make sure we're asking for everything at once.
Right.
You know what I mean? So let's just say, instead of, we don't want a piece, we don't want to do, you know, this week do this and this week do that. So I think we need to be thoughtful, say we need all of these 5 or 6 things and pull that together. So I just want to be thoughtful about how we do that.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do committee members agree with that we would wait till our consultant will be at our next meeting? And we can address that then. Joan?
And I want to make sure too that we're clear about the data we're looking at. So tonight on the finances, you have the announced tuition rate, but the announced tuition rate and the actual cost per child are very different things, and it's really important for the committee to understand those different things. So as we begin to go through finances, we need to look at all those pieces because that will be really important to understand those things.
Is announced tuition what you would actually, is that what people actually pay if they tuition into that school?
Every school must set an announced tuition rate by January 15th every year, and that's what you charge the school. But then over the summer, the business managers do a stat report, statistical report for the state, and then you get your actual cost per student. And so you'll see the announced tuition rate for Polley is $9,549, but their actual cost per student is $14,185 or something to that nature. And Polley then, once they get that number from the state, has the opportunity to charge that back. They've never charged that to any of their school districts, but they could. Other school districts like Mill River, West Rutland, etc., do charge that extra amount back. New York is very different on how they operate, so they are subsidized heavily by the state of New York. So.
Correct. In terms of the data, we got data today, but I think one of the questions in a number of the general public's minds are the alternative schools, BBA, Long Trail, et cetera, et cetera. There's no data on those. So I don't know how trying to represent the public, I can massage it without the data for those other schools.
Well, BBA sets their budget and their tuition rate, and we, Jackie and I, are both residents of the town of Manchester. The town of Manchester votes to pay their total amount. But if a student from Middletown Springs goes to Burton, we pay the state average Union High School tuition. That's what Vermont state law says, which is just over $14,000. That's what the town pays. But Wells, Rupert, and Wells, Rupert, and Pollitt fall in a different category because you both designate, but you've also allowed parents to send students elsewhere, and you allow them a certain amount of money towards that tuition, which is not given to the parents, it's sent directly to the school, and the parents are then responsible for the additional amount.
But what I'm saying is we had one citizen say one scenario was going to cost $360,000, and another scenario was going to cost $180,000. I can't really make decisions without knowing what they actually do charge.
And that's exactly.
A Rupert citizen, not some number which could be changed, but what do they actually charge them? Do they charge them 14? Do they charge them 17? I understand right now, if they come from a designated, district designates, it might be limited to 10,000 or 9,000. So, I mean, without some information on the probable costs, it's hard to.
We know the cost.
And that's exactly what we give you. When we do that question, you're going to have all of that information.
For the other school.
That's right. You're going to have what you need to make a decision. So yeah, you'll have all of that. And that's what I'm saying, that we want to make sure that we do all of that at once so that you've got everything you need to make that decision. And probably what will happen is we'll say, we'll probably get direction, model it out this way. If we were to do this, what would that cost? Because you need that. You need to know that. So we get that. But when that's going to be the agenda item that you're going to talk about on that week for your agenda, we'll make sure that you've got what you need to have that. It's because you can't make that decision yet. None of us have seen all of that, you know? Yeah.
I can answer this question. Being a Rupert citizen.
Excuse me. One of our norms is to be recognized before speaking. If you would like to speak on this topic, you can speak about it at our next meeting. We're going to have a public comment period, but we need to move on to our next item because we're ever going to get through this meeting because we are a little bit off topic. Our next item is opportunities and challenges activity.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move around.
This is, I think, going to take about 30 minutes.
It will take about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions we're going to have you think about. Same type of process. 2 questions are, what are the opportunities that might present themselves to our students in our communities with this merger? And what are some of the challenges that might present themselves to our communities and our children with this merger? And it's just for you to, to kind of just be thinking about that, have a chance to express some of those thoughts and we'll keep that, we'll hold on to that, so as we move through the process, did we get at that? Did we get at that question? So just, starting to frame our thinking a little bit around those two questions. And then I'll have another separate other chart for you, just if there's something else you're thinking about that doesn't fall into any one of those, we just kind of want to know what that is. So as we move through the process, we can make sure we tackle that. So same type of idea that you did when you worked with, when Joan led you through that first activity. We'd like you to split in two groups. We'll give you those questions. First, I want you to, does everybody still have sticky notes? Great. So our first question, stick it right up here. Think about, on your own for a few minutes, what opportunities might present themselves for our students and communities as a result of the merger?